How many of you eat meat at least 5 times a week? Raise your hand. Meat has become an integral part of our everyday lives. But how much meat do we actually consume?
A lot.
What kind of impact does our meat consumption have on the environment? What are some ways to help prevent the negative effects? In this speech, I'll be addressing all of those questions. First of which, how much do we actually consume? According to an Earth Talk article on Scientific America, we consume around 600 billion pounds of meat a year globally. Our meat consumption has almost tripled since 1971. The population has grown by about 81%, and the meat market has grown to match it. Researchers project that by 2050, our meat consumption will have doubled to 1.2 trillion pounds globally a year. What kind of effects will this amount of consumption have on the environment? According to a study done by the Environmental Working Group, or EWG, the production and distribution of red meat accounts for 10 to 40 times more greenhouse gas emissions than vegetables and grains. Livestock farming contributes to more towards greenhouse gas emissions than trains, planes, trucks, and cars put together. In order to produce 1 kilogram of beef, it requires 25 kilograms of grain to feed the cattle. Currently, about 30% of the Earth's land surface is being used for livestock farming, and that includes the farms required or growing the feed for the cattle. The EWG has estimated that we use 167 million pounds of pesticide and 17 billion pounds of nitrogen fertilizer a year to produce the food required. The process produces a chemical called nitrous oxide, which is 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Our meat consumption has led to heavy amounts of pollution entering our atmosphere. Giving up meat altogether would be a tough measure to take, but there are still steps we can take without changing our diets completely. Researchers at the Australian Department of Agriculture and Food believe cutting back 1 or 2 days a week would go a long way to help fight the pollution. But just buying our meats from organic, grass-fed, farm-raised ranches would help too. Another cluster of individual studies done by the Australian Department of Primary Industries and Regional Developments have shown that dietary supplements have decreased the methane output from cattle by 37%. One study has shown that simply changing the type of grass we feed the cattle has reduced the amount of methane as well. The study showed that temperate grass is more digestible than tropical grasses. Regardless if it is personal consumption or agricultural engineering, there are multiple ways to cut back our greenhouse gas emissions. So, in conclusion, I hope you are all more aware of the amount of meat we consume on a yearly basis and the effects that consumption has on our environment, as well as the various steps we can take to cut back on our population.
We have questions? No questions?
Show the audience one more time. There we go.
All right.